And 2 games allowed so far. If you were to nitpick, where would you kind of be critical of your unit?
It's we still got to execute better. I think we still are leaving some things out there, leaving some opportunities out there. A couple of the runs we had last week, I put our guys in a tougher situation. We did a great job stopping the run except for 2 plays, one of which was easily avoidable, probably on my part. I got maybe a little greedy. But I just want our guys to continue to improve, especially our young guys. I want those guys to continue to push and be in a situation where there's not a drop off between the 1s and the 2s.
Missouri hasn't been overly explosive this season. Do you try to find some cut-ups from last season to show what they're capable of doing?
No, I certainly, with only 2 games this year, we're looking at some things from the past. But they may have not had 50-point games, but they're explosive. I mean, they've got some great athletes. They've got a quarterback that can run. They've got talent over there and good coaches. So, it's a scary group.
They haven't found their groove yet, but Luther, Burton, you mentioned those athletes and the other receivers. How concerning are those guys?
They're really talented, and I thought Troy had some really fast, electric kids at receiver too. The difference between these guys and those guys is they're just bigger. They're heavier. They're stronger. And equally as fast. So it's I worry not only about the route running and that stuff, but just the catch and runs. Some of the screen games, some of the things that get the ball to those guys in space. Those guys aren't going to be easy to get on the ground. That's going to be a big challenge for us.
As you come back and evaluated all the tackles for loss you guys have had through 2 games, how much of that has been due to the guys up front, just winning their matchups versus you scheming up blitzes and other things like that?
Well, the two things work hand in hand because we're trying to do things to get people in positions to be successful. But at the end of the day, they are the ones doing it. So, we're really talented up front. I think we've got a lot of quickness on the D line, and anytime you can get those guys moving, I think that's helpful. And then, I think we've got some linebackers that like to get downhill too, and take the challenge in the run game. So. I give as much credit as I can to those guys.
Is there anything about that stat, 20 through 2 games, that surprises you at all?
Just hearing it for the first time, honestly. I don't, I'm not one of those guys that sits after the game and looks at the stat sheet a whole bunch. To me, I'm more about, okay, we did this call this many times, and this was our efficiency in it, and we did this call this many times. I'm more looking at it probably from an analytical point of view than a results-based point of view. I'm looking at it as, hey, we're executing this call at a high level. This call we're not executing at a high level. So either we're going to get rid of it or we're going to work with it, massage it, and make it better. And so I suspected as much. I couldn't tell you the exact numbers of that, but it doesn't surprise me because of how our guys are playing.
The 3 sacks for Khalid are an obvious indication how disruptive he is, but you move him around a lot on 3rd down, sometimes over the nose. How good has he been in those situations?
Great. I mean, I think we're trying to get him in positions where he can have some one-on-ones. And I don't think in his mind it matters if he's over the center, the guard, or the tackle. I know last week, he was getting chipped a lot by tight ends. That'll probably be something that'll be recurring. So we tried to get him in some positions where he wouldn't have that happening to him. And I think ultimately his success there will open some doors for Nate, for Brendan, for Toby, for Javon, for Uso. Hopefully we can get some other guys that are winning those one-on-ones at that rate.
Any thought of maybe Toby's actually a defensive end?
We'll see. We'll see how much he keeps eating. But it's strange because he's one of the fastest kids, if not the fastest kid, and I'm going to get some grief for saying that, on our football team. I mean, he really is. He's tremendously athletic, and he's huge, and he's really comfortable rushing, and so we've started to get him in that role a little bit more and more. But right now I think he's getting better as a linebacker, and he's starting to be more natural. It wasn't real natural for him even in the spring and fall camp. He's developing there. So we want to keep force feeding that to him because I think he could be really special, but he's probably going to be special wherever he plays.
The cornerback tandem has seemed to have grown in dependability just over 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
How does that affect the way you're able to make play calls?
Yeah, I suspected as much in the summer. I'm happy to see Will Lee developing as he is. You know, I kind of had been around Jacob for a year, and so I knew what kind of competitor he was, and just to see Will grow in his confidence and in his understanding, that's really making me feel really secure. And so, no, I kind of planned for that because I thought that it might be the case. And you throw Keenan Garber into that mix as a solid, solid third guy that could probably play anywhere. You got a really good group, really good room.
How valuable have those true freshmen been for your depth?
Huge, and just the fact that we're getting those guys game minutes. I said this in July. I think we're going to be a much better football team on October 15th than we are right now, and we're just going to continue to get better and better. And it's not because Deuce Green is going to grow leaps and bounds better, but it's because Asa Newsome is. It's because Austin Romaine is. It's because Jack Fabris is. It's because those guys just getting more and more clock. So. I'm glad that we're getting them in the game at the frequency that we are. As I mentioned earlier, I think that gap is closing a little bit because there's a talented people. I mean, just really, really athletic group.
And how did Siegel play this week?
Siegel played really well. I mean, he wasn't involved in a ton of things, but the stuff he was involved in, he was winning. So I think he's what we thought he was too. I know he's a competitor. I know he's eager for the challenges Saturday.
Late four-man front, kind of look at something we can possibly throw at you?
Well, we try to stay ahead of the curve. I'll say that. I just think the more you can, you have to evolve, and so we're in the process of constant evolution, and so you never know what you're gonna see. You might see 5 or 6. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know, but we're always trying to stay one step ahead.
When you go into a game like this, first conference or biggest game on Missouri's schedule, do you have to kind of think maybe they'll throw some trick plays in?
No doubt. Yeah, I think that's kind of been their MO. And, one of the harder things for me is just trying to figure out whose identity they are. They're really, obviously the head coach was really involved with the play calling and with the offense and has been, and I assume still is to a great degree. But, they brought some new voices into that room, and, what do they have up their sleeve that maybe they didn't do those first couple of weeks that they'll have for us and for the rest of their schedule. And, that's for us to solve and early.
Time for one more. Is there anything that pops up on a first road game that you got to work against and be weary of?
No, I mean, you bring up an interesting point because, we're talking about all these young guys playing. It's the first time these guys have ever been on a trip. And so just to the maturity of our football team, I think, is one thing that will help a lot because I think our guys really do see this as a business trip. They're not going on the road to eat Skittles and, have a steak. They're going there to play a football game and get themselves ready for 11 o'clock on Saturday.